The hidden heiress. The performance improvement plan sat between us on Scarlett Monroe's desk, 3 pages of corporate euphemism for "you're failing." 30 days, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Measurable objectives on page 2. Weekly check-ins with HR. I scanned the document. Objective 1. Complete technical certification in municipal water systems. Objective 2. Demonstrate client relationship management on active accounts. Objective 3. Achieve 90 or higher on peer collaboration assessment. All reasonable. All impossible in 30 days for someone who'd been here 3 months. This is retaliation, I said quietly. Scarlett's jaw tightened. This is documented performance management. You inserted yourself into a director-level employee's personal matter. HR agrees your judgment needs remediation. I reported a fraternization policy violation. You confronted Christopher Walsh without filing a formal complaint. You bypassed protocol. She slid a second document across the desk. He's filed a counter-complaint. Harassment. Claims you threatened him with fabricated evidence. My stomach dropped. The photos aren't fabricated. You took photos of 2 employees in a parking garage without their consent. Depending on how far he wants to push this, that's potential grounds for termination. She finally looked at me. I'm giving you the PIP because it's better than the alternative. Take the 30 days. Keep your head down. Or don't, and see what HR decides. She was right, and I hated it. I'd tried to do the right thing and handed them a weapon. One question, I said. If I complete the PIP objectives, actually complete them, will you sign off? Something flickered in her expression. Not quite sympathy, but close. If you hit the metrics, I have no choice. Then I'll hit the metrics. I walked out of her office into a department that had turned hostile overnight. People who'd congratulated me on the Thornton deal now found reasons to end conversations when I approached. My desk had been moved from near Marcus to a corner spot by the supply closet. Marcus found me there at lunch, looking uncomfortable. I'm being transferred, he said, without preamble. Quality assurance. Effective Monday. Because of me? Because Scarlett needs someone to blame for how much engineering knowledge you have. She's calling it inappropriate mentorship that circumvented her training authority. He shrugged. It's a lateral move. Same pay. Could be worse. But it was punishment, and we both knew it. Punishment for helping me. Marcus, don't. You didn't make me help you. I chose to. He set something on my desk, a flash drive. Thornton project files. Everything you built. She's going to try to memory hole your involvement. Don't let her. He left before I could say anything else. I looked at the PIP again. 30 days. 3 impossible objectives. And now I'd cost Marcus his position. My phone buzzed a text from my mother. Lunch tomorrow? Your father wants to discuss your progress. Which meant he'd heard something. Which meant Scarlett or Christopher had escalated this beyond the department. I couldn't ask my father for help. Wouldn't. That would prove everything Scarlett had implied, that I was just a rich girl playing at having a career, with Daddy ready to bail me out the moment things got hard. So I did the only thing I could. I opened my laptop and started working. The Municipal Water Systems Certification Exam had 240 questions. Pass rate 34. I had 3 weeks to master material that most engineers studied for 6 months. I started reading at midnight and finished the first practice test at 4 a.m. Score 52. Not even close. You look terrible, my mother said over lunch Saturday. My father was detained at the office, which meant he'd sent her to gather intelligence. Big project. Haven't been sleeping much. Violet? She set down her fork. Your father received a call from Patricia Simmons on Wednesday. Something about a personnel matter requiring executive review. So it had gone that high. CFO level. I'm handling it. By working yourself into exhaustion is less than #0. 6 is greater than. There are easier ways. No. I met her eyes. There aren't. Not if I want anyone to take me seriously. Not if I want this to mean anything. She studied me for a long moment. You're more like your father than you realize. He nearly killed himself, proving he deserved your grandmother's respect. She sipped her wine. It worked, incidentally. But the cost was 3 years of his life he'll never get back. Are you telling me to quit? I'm telling you that proving yourself to people who've already decided you don't belong is a losing game. The question is whether winning that game matters more than what you sacrifice to play it. Monday morning, Jennifer from HR called me in. Her office still had the same motivational posters, but her expression was different. Professional. Distant. This is an informal conversation, she started. No documentation unless you choose to file something formal. Understood. Christopher Walsh has withdrawn his complaint. He's requested transfer to our Austin facility, effective next month. The company is accommodating this request. She folded her hands. The fraternization investigation is closed. No findings, no record. I waited for the catch. However, your PIP remains in effect. That's a separate matter. Do you have questions about your objectives? Objective 2 says, demonstrate client relationship management on active accounts. I'm not assigned to any active accounts right now. That would be between you and your manager. Of course it would. Scarlett could block me from accounts and then fail me for not demonstrating client management. What if I generate my own client relationship? Jennifer's eyebrows rose slightly. Within policy parameters and with appropriate vendor approval procedures, that would satisfy the objective. I left her office with a plan forming. Not a good plan, but the only one I had. The Crawford Enterprises vendor database was accessible to all employees. It took me 2 hours to find what I needed. Riverside Municipal Authority, the client from my first real project. The one where I'd spent a weekend learning their infrastructure problems. They'd awarded us the bridge renovation contract. We'd completed Phase 1 2 months ago. Phase 2, the seismic retrofit, wasn't scheduled until next quarter. But the project file showed something interesting, an addendum request from Riverside, filed 3 weeks ago, asking about accelerating the timeline. No response from Crawford Enterprises yet. I called the main number. Riverside Municipal Authority, how may I direct your call? Engineering Department, please. I'm following up on project file 2847B. A pause. 1 moment. The person who answered was not who I expected. Derek Morrison, project supervisor. Mr. Morrison, this is Violet Parker from Crawford Enterprises. I'm calling about your addendum request on the Riverside Bridge project. Oh, thank God. We filed that 3 weeks ago, haven't heard anything. The City Council moved up our completion deadline because of the election cycle. We need Phase 2 started by April or we lose the funding. I pulled up the project timeline. Phase 2 required specialized equipment and a crew of 8. It was scheduled for June because that's when the equipment was available. What's driving the April requirement? Federal Infrastructure Grant. It's use it or lose it by fiscal year end, which is May 31st. If we don't have Phase 2 at 60 completion by then, the money disappears. He sighed. Look, if Crawford can't do it, I need to know now so I can put it out for rebid. That would cost Crawford a $1 million contract. And probably cost Scarlett her job when the CFO found out we'd let a client walk because no one answered their emails. Give me 48 hours, I said. I'll get you an answer. I went to Scarlett's office at 430 when most of the department had left. Riverside is going to rebid Phase 2 if we don't respond by Wednesday. She looked up from her computer. How do you know that? I called them. You called a client? Without clearance? I was demonstrating client relationship management. It's Objective 2 on my PIP. I set my phone on her desk, Derek Morrison's contact information visible. He needs Phase 2 started by April. We told them June. If we can't accommodate, he rebids. Which means we lose the contract, and the CFO asks why no one read the addendum request that's been sitting in the system for 3 weeks. Scarlett's expression went very still. That file is your responsibility. You're the junior engineer on Riverside. I was taken off Riverside when my projects got reassigned. The file's been sitting in the general queue. I pulled up the system log on my phone. No one's touched it since the transfer. She knew I was right. More importantly, she knew I documented the chain of custody. What's your solution? She asked finally. We negotiate an April start if they accept a modified Phase 2 approach. Instead of the full seismic retrofit, we do the critical junction reinforcements first. Smaller crew, available equipment, gets them to 60 completion by their deadline. We finish the remaining work in June as originally planned. That requires re-engineering the entire phase. Permits. Change orders. I've already drafted the modifications. They meet code. They're actually lower risk than the original approach because we're working on smaller sections. Scarlett leaned back in her chair. For a long moment, she just looked at me. You're trying to save this contract to save yourself. I'm trying to save it because it's worth saving. That I also need a win right now is just convenient timing. If I let you run this, and you fail, we lose Riverside entirely. The CFO will gut this department. People will lose their jobs. If you don't let me try, you lose it anyway. She pulled up the addendum request on her screen, read it carefully. Send me your modifications by end of day. I'll review them tonight. If they're solid, I'll take them to the client tomorrow. I'm coming with you. No. It's my PIP objective. I need to demonstrate client relationship management. That means I need to be in the room when we pitch this. Her jaw worked. Fine. But if Morrison doesn't like what he hears, I'm killing this conversation immediately. Understood? Understood. I left her office before she could change her mind. Back at my desk, I opened the modifications file I'd been working on since the phone call. It was good work. I knew it was good work. The question was whether it was good enough to save my job and whether Scarlett would actually let me prove it. Derek Morrison's office smelled like coffee and printer toner. He'd cleared space on a conference table that was mostly covered in permit applications and structural drawings. Miss Monroe. Miss Parker. Thanks for coming out. He shook our hands, looked relieved. I was starting to think you'd ghost us entirely. We take Riverside very seriously, Scarlett said smoothly. Violet's been working on modifications to accommodate your timeline. Not, I've been working. She was giving me rope to save myself or hang myself. I pulled up my presentation on the table monitor. The challenge is equipment availability. The hydraulic jacks you need for the full seismic retrofit aren't free until June. But the critical work, the junction reinforcements at points A4, B7, and C2 can be done with standard equipment we can source immediately. Morrison leaned forward, studying the drawings. What about the remaining junctions? They're still retrofitted in Phase 2B, June through August, using the original methodology. But the critical junctions you identified in the risk assessment, the ones carrying 80 of the load stress, get reinforced first. You hit 60 completion by May 15th. The grant requirement is satisfied. Does this meet code? I handed him a 3-page permit analysis. California Building Code 1810. 3. 2 and 1908. 4. I've included the engineer's seal requirements. The city inspector signed off this morning. Scarlett's head turned sharply. I hadn't told her about the inspector visit. Morrison read the permit analysis twice. This is solid. Timeline? We can start April 8th. 12-week duration for Phase 2A. Break for equipment delivery. Resume June 16th for Phase 2B. 6 weeks. Cost? The bifurcated approach adds $85,000 for mobilization and inspection fees. But you avoid rebid costs and timeline risk. And you keep the grant money. Morrison looked at Scarlett. You're okay with this? She hesitated for exactly 1 second, long enough that I felt my chest tighten. Then, the approach is sound. I've reviewed Violet's calculations. Crawford stands behind this proposal. Morrison extended his hand. Then we have a deal. Get me a change order by Friday and we'll get this moving. In the parking lot, Scarlett stopped me. You went to the city inspector without clearance. I went as a private citizen, asking hypothetical questions about permit requirements. I didn't represent Crawford until I had your approval. That's a very fine line. It's the only line I had. She unlocked her car, paused with her hand on the door. The bifurcation approach. Where'd you learn that? Stanford? Structural Systems Optimization Seminar. Professor Chen taught us to break large risk projects into small risk sequences. I took that seminar 7 years ago. She almost smiled. Chen failed me twice before I finally got it. It was the first personal thing she'd ever told me. Why'd you say yes in there? I asked. You could have killed this. Blamed me for overreaching. Because the approach is solid. And because Morrison was right, we were ghosting them. She opened her door. Don't mistake this for forgiveness, Violet. You're still on a PIP. You still cost me someone. You still cost me something. But I'm not going to let a good solution die because of personal issues. She drove away before I could respond. I sat in my car for a long time, thinking about what she'd almost said. She what? Cared about? Loved? For the first time, I wondered if ending things with Christopher had hurt her more than I'd understood. If behind all the professional veneer and the political maneuvering, there was a person who'd lost something real. But then I remembered Diana Walsh and her kids, and I started the engine. Some losses were necessary, even if they hurt. The exam was 3 hours long, proctored at the State Licensing Board in Sacramento. I drove up Friday morning after pulling an all-nighter reviewing practice problems. 240 questions. Multiple choice, true-false, calculation-based. Subject areas: water treatment, chemistry, hydraulic systems, municipal code compliance, environmental regulations, public health standards. I'd studied 4 weeks. Average 6 hours of sleep total per week. My practice test scores had climbed from 52 to 78 to, on my final practice run Wednesday night, 87. The pass threshold was 85. I'd either prepared enough or I hadn't. There was no middle ground. Question 87 inches, a Class 2 surface water treatment plant operating at 15 mgd. What is the minimum detention time required for sedimentation under EPA regulations? Is less than #0. 6 is greater than. I knew this. I'd memorized the EPA tables. But my brain was fuzzy from exhaustion, and for a terrifying moment, the number wouldn't come. 4 hours? 6 hours? 8? I closed my eyes. Breathed. Saw the table in my mind, the one I'd rewritten 14 times until it was muscle memory. 4 hours. Minimum. I marked B and moved on. Question 156. Calculate the required chlorine residual for a distribution system serving 50,000 residents with an average daily flow of 8.3 mgd and a maximum residence time of 72 hours. This required actual math. I had 15 minutes left in the exam and 40 questions remaining. I set up the equation fast. Population per capita demand, total demand. Check. Residence time decay rate, residual loss. Check. Minimum required residual loss injection concentration. The math took 90 seconds. I double-checked it. Marked my answer. Kept moving. Question 240. Under what conditions can a municipality defer seismic retrofitting of water infrastructure beyond the standard 10-year compliance window? This one I actually didn't know. The textbook had mentioned deferrals but hadn't specified conditions. I'd run out of time to research it. I eliminated 2 obviously wrong answers. Guess between the remaining 2. Marked C. And submitted the exam. The screen went blank for 30 seconds. Then, your exam has been submitted for scoring. Results will be available in 48 hours via the candidate portal. 2 days. I had to wait 2 days to know if I'd just saved my job or failed spectacularly. I called Marcus from the parking lot. "How'd it go?" he asked. "No idea. Could be anywhere from barely passing to catastrophically failing. My money's on passing. You're too stubborn to fail." I almost laughed. "How's quality assurance?" "Boring. Safe. I'm documenting compliance reports instead of building things." He paused. "But the department's quieter without Scarlett's drama. So there's that. I'm sorry you got caught in this." "You already apologized." "Stop." I heard him moving, a door closing. "Listen, I shouldn't tell you this, but Scarlett's PIP metrics, the 90 peer collaboration score? What about it?" "She has to submit the assessment request to HR by Wednesday. If she doesn't request it, the objective is automatically satisfied as unmeasurable." "Why would she not request it?" "Because if she does request it, and your score comes back above 90, she has to sign off on the PIP as completed. But if your score comes back below 90, it proves the department has documentation of you being difficult to work with, which supports her narrative." I understood. So she's gambling that people will rate me poorly. After the Christopher thing and me getting transferred is less than #0. 6 is greater than, yeah. She probably thinks you've burned enough bridges that you'll fail the peer review. He was right. I'd made myself radioactive in the department. People avoided me, excluded me from conversations, found excuses not to work with me. "There's no way I get 90, I said. "Probably not. But I thought you should know the game she's playing." After we hung up, I sat in my car watching the state building, thinking about loyalty and strategy and the difference between winning and surviving. Scarlett had given me objectives, knowing I'd probably fail. But she'd also given me the PIP instead of immediate termination. She'd let me pitch Riverside. She'd admitted the approach was solid. She was sabotaging me. But carefully. Almost reluctantly. Like she wanted me to fail but couldn't quite commit to destroying me. I didn't know what to do with that information. So I started the 3-hour drive home and tried not to think about what my peer collaboration score would be. The exam results posted Sunday at 3 a.m. I know because I was awake, compulsively refreshing the candidate portal every 10 minutes. Congratulations. You have successfully passed the California Municipal Water Systems Certification Examination. Your score 88. Your certification will be processed within 10 business days. I'd passed. By 3 percentage points. I screenshotted the results and sent them to Scarlett Objective 1 Complete. Please update PIP documentation. She didn't respond. Monday morning, The Riverside change order approval came through. Derek Morrison sent an email to the entire project team, CCing Patricia Simmons in finance. Thanks to Violet Parker's quick thinking and creative problem solving, we've secured the Phase 2 timeline. Crawford continues to be our partner of choice. Patricia replied all within 20 minutes. Excellent work, Violet. Scarlett, let's discuss resource allocation on this project. Translation: why wasn't your department responding to client requests? And why did a junior engineer on a PIP have to fix it? I arrived at the office to find Scarlett in a meeting with Patricia. Through the glass wall, I could see Patricia doing most of the talking, Scarlett nodding, her face carefully neutral. When the meeting ended, Patricia stopped by my desk. Walk with me. We went to the executive floor, somewhere I'd carefully avoided for 3 months. Patricia's office had a view of the bay and furniture that cost more than most people's cars. She closed the door. Tell me what happened with Christopher Walsh. My stomach tightened. I'd prefer not to. That wasn't a request. The company paid $150,000 to relocate a director-level employee to avoid an internal investigation. I want to know what I bought. So the company had buried it. Protected Christopher, minimized liability, made it go away. I observed behavior that violated the fraternization policy. I addressed it inappropriately. HR determined I'd bypassed proper channels. Did you fabricate evidence? No. Did Christopher Walsh engage in a relationship with Scarlett Monroe that created a conflict of interest? Yes. Patricia studied me for a long moment. Your father doesn't know you work here. It wasn't a question. No. Matthew Crawford is one of the most ethical CEOs I've worked with. He's also one of the most protective of his daughter. If he knew what happened, if he knew an employee filed a false complaint against you to cover up misconduct, he'd burn the entire department down, looking for accountability. I don't want that. Why not? Because then I'm just the CEO's daughter who got special treatment. I'm not someone who earned her place here. Patricia's expression softened slightly. Merit is important. But martyrdom is stupid. Your PIP was retaliatory, everyone knows it. The objectives were designed to be unpassable. I passed the first one. You passed an exam with a 34 pass rate in 4 weeks while working full-time. That's not passing, that's proving a point. She pulled up something on her computer. Objective 2, Client Relationship Management. You've satisfied that with Riverside. Objective 3, Peer Collaboration Assessment. That survey goes out Wednesday. I won't get 90. You won't get 60, Patricia corrected. Scarlett's been very thorough in her campaign against you. The department believes you're difficult, entitled, and responsible for Marcus Chen's transfer. I am responsible for his transfer. No. Scarlett is responsible for retaliating against an employee who helped you learn your job. There's a difference. She turned her monitor so I could see it. An email draft. From Patricia Simmons, CFO to Engineering Department, reorganizational changes effective immediately. Scarlett Monroe will transition to Senior Technical Advisor with project oversight responsibilities, but no direct reports. Violet Parker will assume project manager responsibilities for the Riverside account and associated municipal infrastructure projects. This change reflects our commitment to rewarding demonstrated leadership and technical excellence. I'm removing her? I said. I'm restructuring to reflect performance reality. She's a decent technical engineer. She's a terrible manager. You've proven you can handle complex projects and client relationships. The org chart should reflect that. This will destroy her. She destroyed herself when she weaponized HR processes for personal vendettas. Patricia closed the email. But I'm giving you the choice. I can send this tomorrow and end your PIP immediately. Or you can finish the 30 days, probably fail the peer assessment, and get terminated despite completing 2 of 3 objectives. is less than #0. 6# is greater than. It should have been an easy choice. Career survival versus protecting someone who'd tried to eliminate me. But I kept seeing Scarlett in that parking garage, shoulders shaking. Kept hearing you still cost me someone What happens to her? I asked. The demotion. Same pay. Lateral move. She keeps her projects but loses her managerial authority. If she performs well, she can rebuild. If she retaliates, she's gone. And me? You get what you earned. A job where your competence matters more than your last name. I thought about my mother's words. Proving yourself to people who've already decided you don't belong is a losing game. But I'd already won. I'd solved problems Scarlett couldn't. Earned client respect. Passed an impossible exam. I didn't need her approval anymore. Send the email, I said. But I want to tell her first. I found Scarlett in the materials library, reviewing inventory sheets like nothing had changed. Patricia's restructuring the department, I said without preamble. You're being moved to senior technical advisor. No direct reports. Her pen stopped moving. When? Tomorrow. She set down the pen carefully. Did you ask for this? No. But I approved it. Of course you did. She wouldn't look at me. I suppose this is what winning looks like for you. This is what consequences look like for you. You weaponized the pit process. You retaliated against Marcus. You made my life hell for 3 months because I embarrassed you. I made your life hell, she said quietly, because you had everything I spent 7 years fighting for, and you barely noticed. Do you know what it's like watching someone show up with family money and connections, land projects through luck and privilege, and get praised for being scrappy? I didn't use family connections. You used a yacht. You got your mother's certification exam prep materials. You had a safety net every second. She finally looked at me. I had none of that. I borrowed $40,000 for my engineering degree. I took this job at $15,000 less than my market value because the title was manager. I needed that title to refinance my student loans at a better rate. I needed Christopher because he could. She stopped. Could what? I asked. Could make me feel like I was worth protecting. Like someone with power gave a damn if I succeeded or failed. Her voice cracked. Pathetic, right? I traded my dignity for security and lost both. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to argue I'd worked hard, earned the wins, played by the rules she broke. But another part recognized the truth. I'd had advantages she didn't. Not just money. Space to fail. Permission to try. I am sorry, I said finally. About Christopher. I should have gone to HR formally. You're right about that. But not sorry you blew it up. No. Not sorry about that. She nodded, almost smiled. At least you're honest. She picked up her inventory sheets. For what it's worth, you're decent at this job. Better than decent. The Riverside bifurcation was clever. You'll do well as PM. Scarlett, we're done here, Violet. You won. Enjoy it. She walked out of the library, shoulders straight, head high. Performing composure one last time. I stood there, surrounded by labeled drawers and organized supplies, feeling like I'd won a fight I'd never actually wanted to have. Patricia's email went out Tuesday at 9 a.m. Effective immediately, organizational changes as follows. The department reaction was immediate and divided. Half the engineers seemed relieved. Scarlett's management style had made plenty of people miserable. The other half looked at me with resentment, the new hire who'd somehow leapfrogged everyone in 3 months. Marcus called it lunch. Congratulations, I think? You think? I mean, you earned it. But you also just painted a giant target on your back. Everyone knows why Scarlett got demoted. They're going to be watching to see if you're actually competent or just connected. I am competent. Yeah. Now you have to prove it every single day. Welcome to management. My first week as project manager was trial by fire. The Riverside Phase 2, a kickoff, got delayed because the equipment vendor's insurance lapsed. I spent 6 hours on the phone finding an alternative vendor, then another 4 hours renegotiating the timeline with Derek Morrison. This is exactly why I was nervous about bifurcation, Morrison said. More vendors means more failure points. And I'm managing those failure points, I countered. We're still starting April 8th. I'm eating the weekend mobilization costs to keep us on schedule. Crawford's absorbing that? I'm absorbing it out of my project management discretionary budget. Which meant I was betting $8,000 of company money that I could make this work. Morrison was silent for a moment. Okay. I appreciate that. Let's make it happen. When I hung up, my hands were shaking. Scarlett appeared in my doorway. I heard you lost the primary vendor. Temporarily. I found a replacement. By offering discretionary funds without CFO approval, that's technically outside your authority. I met her eyes. Are you going to report it? She should have. It would have been perfect revenge, catching me in a procedural violation my first week, proving I was reckless. No, she said finally. But next time, check with Patricia first. She has more discretionary authority than you realize. Why are you helping me? Because I'm not a cartoon villain, Violet. I made mistakes. I paid for them. But I still care whether this company's projects succeed. She turned to leave, paused. And because maybe I want to see if you can actually pull this off without a safety net? The safety net comment bothered me more than it should have. That night, I met my parents for dinner. First time in a month I'd had time. My father looked older than I remembered. Tired. Patricia tells me you're doing well, he said carefully. So, he knew. Of course he knew. She told you. She told me there was an exceptional junior engineer making waves. I figured it out from there. He smiled slightly. You take after your mother's same way of attacking problems head on. My mother raised her glass. I'll take that as a compliment. How long were you going to keep this secret? My father asked. Until I'd proven I belonged there on my own merit. And have you? I thought about the certification exam. The Riverside saves. The vendor crisis I just navigated. I'm starting to. He nodded. Good. But Violet, you need to understand what you've taken on. Project manager at your age, in a company where everyone knows whose daughter you are. You're going to face challenges no one else faces. Standards no one else is held to. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you've spent 3 months fighting one battle. Management is 100 battles simultaneously. Client crises, team dynamics, budget pressures, technical problems. All at once. All your responsibility. My mother touched his hand. Matthew, she knows what she signed up for. Does she? He looked at me directly. Because the easy path is still available. Senior financial analyst. Work on high-level strategy instead of daily project crises. Less stress. More security. You mean less risk of embarrassing you if I fail? I mean less risk of you sacrificing your well-being to prove a point. We stared at each other across the table. I saw the concern in his eyes, the genuine worry. But also the doubt. The assumption that I'd eventually need rescuing. I'm not taking the easy path, I said. I'm finishing what I started. He sighed. Then I'm here when you need me. I won't need you. Everyone needs help eventually, Violet. Learning when to ask for it is part of growing up. April 8th. Riverside Phase 2, a kickoff. I arrived on site at 6 a.m. The crew was already there, 8 people I'd never met, led by a foreman named Ray Hutchins, who looked skeptical of a 23-year-old project manager. "You Parker?" he asked. "That's me. Derek says you're engineered this whole phase in 3 weeks. That true?" "Modified it. The fundamental approach is the same." He grunted. "Well, let's see if it works. My guys are good, but they can't build from bad plans." It wasn't exactly a vote of confidence. We spent the morning reviewing the junction reinforcement sequence. Ray asked good questions: load transfer timing, concrete cure rates, inspection intervals. I'd anticipated most of them. The ones I hadn't, I admitted I needed to research. "At least you're honest," Ray said. "Had a PM once who bullshitted his way through everything. Ended up with a bridge closure because he'd specified wrong rebar spacing. I'll try not to close any bridges." He almost smiled. Good start. By week 3, we'd completed the A4 junction reinforcement ahead of schedule. Ray's crew had found an efficiency in the process. I hadn't anticipated using prefabricated forms instead of custom building each one. "Saves about 6 hours per junction," Ray explained. "Your design's modular enough to support it." "That's your insight, not mine." "Yeah, but you didn't fight it when I suggested it." "That matters." He looked at the completed work, nodded. "You're all right, Parker. For an office engineer." It was the best compliment I'd gotten in months. May 15th, I submitted the Phase 2A completion report to Derek Morrison. 62% complete. 3 days ahead of deadline. Morrison called me an hour later. The city inspector signed off. The grant money is secure. He paused. "Violet, I want you to know I was skeptical when Scarlett brought you to that first meeting. Young PM, relatively new to the company, proposing a complete redesign. I figured it was desperation. It was a little bit desperation. But it was also smart. And you delivered. So thank you." After we hung up, I sat at my desk and let myself feel its success. Real, earned, documented success that no one could attribute to my last name or my connections. Patricia stopped by that afternoon. "Nice work on Riverside." "Thanks. You ready for the next challenge?" I looked at her warily. "What next challenge?" "The Thornton project. The one you landed 3 months ago. They want to accelerate the timeline. They want you as lead PM." She smiled. "Turns out doing good work gets you more work. Welcome to management." I thought about my father's warning. 100 battles simultaneously. "I'm ready," I said. And for the first time in 3 months, I actually believed it. The Thornton project kickoff meeting was scheduled for Tuesday. I spent Memorial Day weekend reviewing the historical preservation specs, the structural upgrade requirements, the budget constraints. My phone rang Monday night. Unknown number. "Violet Parker?" "Speaking. This is Amanda Walsh, Christopher's wife." My stomach dropped. "Mrs. Walsh, I know what you did. My husband told me everything after he filed for divorce." The words hit like a physical blow. "Divorce?" "He's in Austin with his assistant. 24 years old. He says it's love. He says you made him realize he needed to stop living a lie." Her voice cracked. "You destroyed my family to feel righteous." "Mrs. Walsh, I wasn't trying to. I don't care what you were trying to do. I care that my kids asked me yesterday why Daddy isn't coming home. And I didn't have an answer." She hung up. I sat in my apartment for a long time, staring at my phone. I'd thought I was saving a marriage. Instead, I'd accelerated its collapse. Christopher hadn't ended things with Scarlett because of moral revelation. He'd ended things because I'd made it too risky to continue. And then he'd left his wife for someone new, someone who didn't come with complications. I'd helped no one. Just made myself feel powerful while people's lives fell apart. Tuesday morning, I was 30 minutes late to the Thornton meeting. Patricia covered, but I could see her concern. "You okay?" she asked afterward. "Family emergency." "It's handled." Lie. But I couldn't explain. Couldn't admit I was unraveling over consequences I should have foreseen. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Thornton, project timelines, vendor negotiations, permit applications. I worked 16-hour days and skipped meals and stopped answering my parents' calls. At night, I'd lie awake thinking about Amanda Walsh's voice. "You destroyed my family." The third Friday, Scarlett found me in my office at 9 p.m. staring at a budget spreadsheet I'd been looking at for an hour without actually seeing. "Go home," she said. "Still working?" "No, you're sitting here drowning." I recognize it because I did it for 2 years. She sat across from my desk. "Amanda called you." I looked up sharply. "How do you know?" "Because she called me too. Told me I was a homewrecker. Told me Christopher left her for someone else. Told me we both ruined her life." Scarlett's expression was carefully neutral. She's entitled to her anger. She's right. She's hurt. There's a difference. I made everything worse. I thought I was helping. You thought you were winning. It felt good to have leverage over me, over Christopher. To be the moral authority. She leaned back. I did the same thing to you with the PIP. Felt justified every step. Took me losing my management position to realize I'd been punishing you for reminding me of everything I wasn't. This isn't the same. It's exactly the same. We both made other people pay for our own insecurities. She stood. The difference is, I'm trying to do better. You're still drowning. So I'll say it again, go home. The work will be here tomorrow. I went home. Slept for 12 hours. Woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 unread emails. One email stood out, from Marcus Chen, subject, "You still alive? Haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. People are worried." Well, I'm worried. Everyone else is speculating about when you'll crash and burn. Don't give them the satisfaction. Also, attached is a process optimization I worked up for the Thornton permit sequencing. You're running them in serial when you could run 4 in parallel. Save you 3 weeks. Don't tell anyone, I'm still helping you. QA is boring and I need the mental stimulation. I opened the attachment. He was right. Of course he was right. I wrote back, "Thank you. For this and for checking on me. I'm okay." Or, "I'm getting there." His response came immediately, "Good. Because I bet 50 you'd make it to 6 months without a breakdown. Don't make me lose money." That Monday, I implemented Marcus's optimization. Cut 3 weeks from the permit timeline. I also called Amanda Walsh. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail. "Mrs. Walsh, this is Violet Parker. I owe you an apology. I inserted myself into a situation I didn't fully understand. I thought I was preventing harm, but I didn't consider all the consequences. I'm sorry. Your family's pain isn't my fault, but my actions contributed to the timing and maybe the severity. That's on me. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see now how badly I handled this. I'm sorry." She never called back. I didn't expect her to. But I slept better that night. June brought new challenges. The Thornton facade restoration required specialized contractors. Only 3 firms in California had the expertise. 2 were booked solid. The third wanted $300,000 50% over budget. I spent a week negotiating. Got them down to $275,000 by offering a payment schedule that worked with their cash flow needs. Still $75,000 over budget. Patricia called me in. Where are you finding the money? I'm not. I'm recommending we eliminate the facade work and allocate those funds to the structural upgrades. She frowned. The facade work was your pitch. The whole reason Thornton chose us. And the structural work is why the building will still be standing in 50 years. I prioritized wrong. We need to fix it. James Thornton isn't going to be happy. I know. But he'll be less happy if we half-ass the restoration and the building fails inspection. She studied me for a long moment. You're learning. Fast. Most PMs don't figure out the difference between what clients want and what they need until they've blown 3 budgets. I'm trying not to blow this one. Then make the call. But you're delivering the news to Thornton personally. James Thornton took it better than I expected. You're saying the facade restoration would compromise the structural integrity is less than #0. 6 is greater than I'm saying the budget only supports one priority. We can make the building look beautiful, or we can make it safe for another 50 years. I'm recommending safety. He was quiet for a long moment. My father would have agreed with you. He always said pretty buildings that fall down aren't worth much. He sighed. Do the structural work. We'll fundraise for the facade separately. I'm sorry, I overpromised. You didn't overpromise. You pitched what I wanted to hear. Then you had the integrity to tell me the truth when reality didn't match. He extended his hand. That's rare. Thank you. July 15th. 6 months since I'd started at Crawford Enterprises, Patricia called me in for my 6-month review. You've exceeded expectations, she said without preamble. Riverside Phase 2, completed ahead of schedule and under budget. Thornton Project Tracking for on-time delivery. Client satisfaction scores 4. 8 out of 5. She slid a document across her desk. I'm recommending you for Senior Project Manager. 20% raise. Team of 3 direct reports. I stared at the promotion letter. I've been a PM for 3 months. And you've demonstrated more leadership in 3 months than some people show in 3 years. She smiled. Also, your father called me last week. Asked how you were doing. I told him you were thriving. What did he say? Is less than #0. 6 is greater than. He said, good. Tell her I'm proud of her. But don't tell her I said that. I felt something tight in my chest loosen. You're telling me anyway. Because you've earned the right to hear it. She stood, extended her hand. Congratulations, Senior Project Manager Parker. That night, I found Scarlett in the parking garage. Same spot where I'd photographed her 6 months ago. She saw me and tensed. If you're here to gloat, I'm here to say thank you. She blinked. For what? For the pip. For pushing me. For making me prove I deserved to be here. I hesitated. And I'm sorry. For how I handled the Christopher situation. For not understanding what you were risking until it was too late. She looked away. He's engaged to that girl in Austin. Did you know that? No. 6 months. That's all it took for him to replace me and his wife. She laughed bitterly. I destroyed my reputation for someone who never actually cared. He didn't deserve you. Maybe not. But I didn't deserve what I became trying to keep him. She met my eyes. You asked me once why I targeted you. Truth is, you reminded me of who I used to be. Before I got cynical and desperate. Before I started measuring my worth by who was protecting me. You're a good engineer, I said. Really good. You don't need anyone's protection. Took me losing everything to figure that out. She pulled her car keys from her pocket. For what it's worth, you'll do well here. You're tougher than I gave you credit for. And you're better than you think you are. She smiled genuine this time. We'll see. Night, Parker. Night, Monroe. She drove away, and I stood in the garage thinking about the cost of winning. About what we'd both lost and gained in 6 months. I'd proven I belonged here. But I'd also learned that belonging came with prices I hadn't anticipated. Complexity I'd oversimplified. Consequences I couldn't control. It wasn't the victory I'd imagined. But it was real. And maybe that was better. September brought Santa Ana winds and fire season and a crisis I wasn't prepared for. The Thornton project was 70% complete when the city inspector flagged an issue. The seismic anchoring system we'd specified wasn't compatible with the historical concrete formulation. The original 1,940 seconds concrete had different compression properties than modern materials. How did we miss this? I asked Ray Hutchins on site. Because the structural engineer's testing assumed modern concrete, Ray said grimly. The original specifications didn't flag the vintage formulation as relevant. Can we retrofit the anchors? Not without potentially compromising the historical structure. We'd have to drill new anchor points, which requires historical society approval and will add 8 weeks to the timeline. I called James Thornton. We have a situation. The emergency meeting included James, the city inspector, a historical society representative, Ray, and me. Scarlett attended as technical advisor, her first project involvement since the demotion. The building is safe as is, Scarlett explained, but it doesn't meet current seismic code for retrofitted structures. You're in a gray area too modern to be grandfathered as historical, too historical to treat as new construction. What are our options? James asked. I pulled up the analysis I'd worked on for 3 days straight. Option 1, we petition for a historical exemption. Building stays as is, gets landmark status, accepts reduced seismic rating. Option 2, we complete the full retrofit with new anchor points. 8-week delay. 120,000 additional cost. Potential historical designation issues. Option 3, we implement a hybrid system, external seismic bracing that doesn't penetrate the historical structure. Option 3, the inspector said. What's the precedent? San Francisco City Hall, 1996 restoration. They used external steel moment frames anchored to the foundation, not the historical walls. That was a $400 million project, James said quietly. And we're proposing a scaled version for $95,000. Not cheap, but cheaper than option 2, and it doesn't require historical society exception that might get challenged in court later. The room was silent. Show me the designs, James said. I pulled up the drawings Scarlett and I had developed together. External steel frames, architecturally integrated to look like intentional design elements rather than retrofits. The frames transferred seismic loads to the foundation while leaving the historical walls intact. The inspector studied them carefully. This meets code. I'd approve it. The Historical Society representative nodded. The frames could actually enhance the Art Deco aesthetic if designed well. James looked at me. You developed this in 3 days? Scarlett and I developed it. She has more experience with historical retrofits. Scarlett glanced at me, surprised I'd credited her. Then do it, James said. Option 3. Get me a revised timeline. After the meeting, Scarlett caught my arm in the parking lot. You didn't have to credit me publicly. You did half the design work. That's not credit, that's accuracy. Most PMs would have taken sole credit to look competent. I'm not interested in looking competent. I'm interested in being competent. which means acknowledging when someone else's expertise is better than mine. She looked at me for a long moment. I was wrong about you. From the beginning. You were right about some things. I did have advantages you didn't. I should have been more aware of that. But you earned your place anyway. That matters. She unlocked her car. If you need help with the historical research for those steel frames, I have contacts at the Preservation Institute. Happy to share them. I'd appreciate that. She nodded and drove away. Not quite friendship, but maybe something like professional respect. The Thornton project completed November 12th. Grand opening ceremony, city council attendance, press coverage about the successful historical preservation. James Thornton gave a speech. This building represents what's possible when we honor the past while building for the future. Thanks to Crawford Enterprises, and particularly to Violet Parker and Scarlett Monroe, we've achieved something we thought was impossible. My parents attended. My father shook my hand afterward, and I saw pride in his eyes that he didn't need to voice. My mother hugged me. You proved your point. Thoroughly. Thanks for letting me try. Thanks for showing me what stubborn determination combined with actual competence looks like. She smiled. You're better at this than your father was at your age. Don't tell him I said that. December? Annual performance reviews. Patricia's assessment. Violet Parker has demonstrated exceptional technical ability, client management, and team leadership. She has successfully managed 2 major projects to completion, developed innovative solutions to complex problems, and earned trust from both clients and colleagues. Recommendation promotion to senior project manager confirmed. Additional recommendation consideration for department head track within 1824 months. I read it twice, making sure I understood. Department head. Management of managers. The kind of role that usually took 5 to 7 years to reach. You're serious, I said. Patricia smiled. You've proven you can handle pressure, admit mistakes, learn fast, and deliver results. Those are the qualities we need in leadership. She paused. But I want you to think carefully about whether you want this path. Management gets more political and less technical the higher you go. Make sure that's what you actually want. I thought about the last 9 months. The stress, the mistakes, the victories. The cost of proving I belonged. I want it, I said. But on one condition. What condition? When the department head position opens, I want Scarlett Monroe considered too. She has the technical expertise and the experience. She deserves a shot at redemption. Patricia's eyebrows rose. You're advocating for someone who tried to destroy your career. I'm advocating for someone who's good at her job and made mistakes out of desperation, not malice. If we only promote people who've never screwed up, we'll only promote people who've never taken risks. Patricia considered this. I'll think about it. But Violet, you can't save everyone. Sometimes people need to save themselves. I know. But I can at least make sure they get the chance. Christmas Eve. The department party was at a wine bar downtown, casual and low-key. I arrived late, expecting awkwardness. Instead, Marcus waved me over to a table where half the engineering team had congregated. Parker. We were betting on whether you'd show up. What were the odds? 3 to 1 against. I bet on you. He grinned. That's the second $50 you've made me this year. People actually wanted to talk to me. About projects, about the Thornton restoration, about the rumors I was being fast-tracked for department head. Is it true? Someone asked. It's under consideration. Jesus, we'll be reporting to a 24-year-old. 23 for another 3 weeks? I corrected. But yeah, maybe. The person, Kevin something from hydraulics, laughed. Well, at least you're competent. That's more than we can say for some managers. It wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but it was acceptance. Real acceptance, based on work rather than connections. I found Scarlett by the windows, nursing a glass of wine alone. "Not really your scene?" I asked. Not really anyone's scene who's been publicly demoted. But she didn't sound bitter, just tired. "How's it feel? Being the golden child?" "Exhausting. Terrifying. Like I'm one mistake away from proving everyone right that I didn't deserve any of this. That feeling doesn't go away. You just get better at functioning through it." She sipped her wine. "I got an offer. Another company. Senior technical engineer, project lead role. 50% pay bump. Are you taking it?" "I don't know." Fresh start sounds appealing. But it also feels like running away. Or it's recognizing when a situation has changed beyond repair. She looked at me. "Is that what you think? That I should leave?" "I think you should do what's right for you. Not what proves a point or saves face. Just what's actually right for Scarlett Monroe the person, not Scarlett Monroe the engineer trying to salvage her reputation. And if I don't know what that is, then you figure it out. But you figure it out for yourself, not for anyone else." She was quiet for a long moment. "I'm taking the job. Not because you said that, but because you're right. I need to build something new, not keep trying to fix what broke here. Good luck." "You too, Parker. You're going to need it if you take department head. The politics only get worse from here. I've had good training in workplace politics." She almost laughed. "Yeah, I guess you have. January brought a new crisis. My father had a heart attack. Not a major one. Mild cardiac event, the doctors called it. But severe enough to require a triple bypass and 3 months of recovery. My mother called me at 2 a.m. He's stable. But Violet, he needs to step back from the company. At least temporarily." "How temporarily?" 6 months. Maybe longer." Her voice cracked. "He's not 25 anymore. He can't work 18-hour days and pretend it's sustainable." I arrived at the hospital at 3 a.m. My father looked small in the hospital bed, attached to machines that beeped rhythmically. "Don't," he said when he saw my expression. "Don't look at me like I'm dying. You almost did. Almost doesn't count. Ask any engineer." He tried to smile. Though I suppose I should follow the safety margins I'm always preaching about. My mother stepped out to talk to doctors, leaving us alone. "The board wants to appoint an interim CEO," my father said quietly. "Patricia's the obvious choice. But she doesn't want it. Says she's not interested in the visibility in politics." "So who?" "That's the problem. We don't have an obvious successor. I've been too busy running the company to develop a leadership pipeline." He looked at me directly. "You're going to be approached. The board knows you work here. Knows you've done well. They're going to ask if you're interested in interim CEO." My heart stopped. I've been here 9 months. And in 9 months, you've proven more leadership capability than people twice your age. "But Violet," he gripped my hand, "taking this role would destroy everything you've built. Everyone would say you got it because you're my daughter. Your credibility, your accomplishments, all of it would be erased." "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to tell them no. I want you to keep building your career on your own terms. Let Patricia handle interim CEO. She'll cave eventually and stay focused on your projects. And if I want to say yes?" He was quiet for a long time. "Then I'll support you. But I'll also worry that you're sacrificing your future to save my legacy." The board meeting was Friday. I attended as a courtesy my father's daughter, not an executive. The board consisted of 8 people, 5 external directors, Patricia, My mother, non-voting advisory, and an empty chair where my father normally Saturday. We need to discuss interim leadership, David Harrison, the board chair, began. Matthew's recovery will take minimum 6 months. We need someone who understands the business, commands respect, and can make decisions without constant consultation. Patricia is the obvious choice, someone said. Patricia shook her head. I'm CFO for a reason. I don't want operational oversight. I'm effective in my role because I'm not trying to be CEO. Then who? We can't bring in an outside interim. They'd spend 3 months learning the business before they could actually run it. The room fell silent. David looked at me. Violet, you've been successful in your role. You understand the company culture. You have unique insight into Matthew's vision. Unique insight, meaning you're his daughter. I've been here 9 months, I said carefully. I'm not qualified to run an 800-person company. Neither was your father when he took over from his mother, David countered. He was 28 with 3 years of experience. He learned? With a strong senior leadership team supporting him. Who would be supporting me? We all would, Patricia said. But I heard the reluctance in her voice. Would you? I asked. Or would you be managing me? Waiting for me to make mistakes so you could prove I was just the boss's daughter pretending to be capable? Patricia met my eyes. I'd support you. But you're right that it would be complicated. Then find someone else. Promote from within. Make someone VP of Operations interim CEO. Give them 6 months to prove they can handle it. If they fail, then reassess. Who? David asked. Malcolm Chen, VP of Manufacturing. He's been here 12 years. He understands operations and finance. He's respected across departments. He's ready. Technically, Malcolm was Marcus's uncle, a connection I'd learned about 2 months ago. But he'd earned his position long before I'd arrived. Chen's good, Patricia admitted. Conservative, but stable. He could hold things steady while Matthew recovers. The board discussed it for 20 minutes. Finally, they voted Malcolm Chen, interim CEO. 6-month term with potential extension. Afterward, Patricia found me in the hallway. You just turned down a CEO position. I turned down a setup for failure disguised as an opportunity. Smart. She smiled. Most people can't tell the difference. I had good training in recognizing traps disguised as promotions. Malcolm started as interim CEO the following Monday. His first decision promoting a new VP of Operations to backfill his old role. His second decision asking me to consult on operational efficiency and engineering. You've demonstrated good instincts for process improvement, he explained in our meeting. The Riverside bifurcation, the Thornton historical integration. I want you to look at how we're managing projects across the department and find inefficiencies. I'm a PM. I don't have authority to change department-wide processes. You will if I approve your recommendations. He leaned back. Violet, I know who your father is. I also know you've deliberately avoided trading on that relationship. But right now, the company needs people who understand both the technical work and the bigger picture. That's rare. Use it. I spent February analyzing engineering's project management processes. What I found was alarming. We were bidding on projects with 60 win rates, but only 45 profit margins. Our project managers spent 40 of their time on administrative tasks that could be automated. We had no standardized risk assessment process, leading to inconsistent contingency planning. Communication between engineering and sales was dysfunctional, resulting in proposals that promised things we couldn't deliver. I compiled a 50-page report with recommendations. 1. Implement standardized risk assessment templates. 2. Automate time tracking and expense reporting saves 16 hours month per PM. 3. Create formal liaison role between engineering and sales to ensure technical accuracy in proposals. 4. Decline low-margin projects below 50 profit threshold unless they provide strategic value. Malcolm read the report in one sitting. This is good work. How fast can you implement it? Alone? 6 months. With a team? 3 months. You've got a team. Pull whoever you need from any department. Report directly to me. I recruited Marcus from Quality Assurance. He was thrilled to escape. 2 junior PMs who'd shown initiative, and after considerable deliberation, Scarlett Monroe. You want me to help you? Scarlett asked when I approached her. I want someone with deep process knowledge and enough cynicism to spot problems I'll miss. That's you. I accepted the other job offer. I leave in 6 weeks. Then I've got you for 6 weeks. I'll take it. She considered. Why are you doing this? I don't deserve your help. No one deserves help. But everyone benefits when good people get second chances. Call it enlightened self-interest. She smiled slightly. Fine. But I'm not going easy on your recommendations just because we're colleagues now. Good. That's why I asked you. The process improvement rollout was brutal. We faced resistance from PMs who didn't want to change their workflows, from sales who resented engineering's new proposal oversight, from finance who thought we were overstepping. But Malcolm backed us. Every time someone complained, he'd say, "Show me data, proving the old system works better." Until then, we're implementing Violet's recommendations. By April, we'd automated 70 of administrative tasks, implemented the risk assessment templates, and declined 3 low-margin projects that would have tied up resources for minimal profit. The result, Q1 profit margins increased from 45 to 54. Project delivery times decreased by 18. PM satisfaction scores improved from 3. 2 to 4. 1 out of 5. Malcolm presented the results to the board. This is the kind of operational thinking we need at senior leadership levels. I'm recommending Violet Parker for Director of Project Operations. Director. That was 2 levels above Senior PM. A role that typically required 5 to 8 years of experience. I was 24 with 14 months at the company. She's not ready, one board member said. Patricia spoke up. 6 months ago, I would have agreed. But look at the results. She identified problems senior leadership missed, developed solutions, and executed flawlessly. If that's not readiness, what is? The board approved the promotion. Director of Project Operations. $180,000 salary. Team of 12 direct reports. I called my father that night. He was home now, recovering slowly. I heard, he said. Congratulations. Are you disappointed I didn't turn it down? Why would I be disappointed? Because everyone's going to say I got it because of you. Let them say it. You and I know the truth. So does everyone who's worked with you. He paused. Violet, I've spent your whole life trying to protect you from the assumptions people make about privilege. But I was wrong. You don't need protection. You need space to prove those assumptions wrong on your own terms. Which you have. Repeatedly. Thanks, Dad. Don't thank me. I didn't do this. You did. My first week as director, Scarlett stopped by my new office. I'm leaving tomorrow. Wanted to say goodbye. Thanks for the 6 weeks. The risk assessment templates were your best contribution. They were... Because I'd lived through every failure mode they're designed to prevent. She looked around the office. You've come a long way from the intern who couldn't read electrical schematics. I had good teachers, even when they were trying to make my life hell. She laughed. Fair. For what it's worth, I'm glad you survived me. The company needs people who can handle adversity without becoming cynical. Good luck at the new place. Thanks. And Violet? Don't let this job turn you into what I became. Remember why you're doing it. After she left, I stood at my office window looking out at the bay, thinking about the 15 months since I'd walked through Crawford Enterprises' front door. I'd proven I could succeed on merit. I'd made mistakes and learned from them. I'd hurt people and tried to make amends. I'd earned respect from people who had every reason to dismiss me. But I'd also paid costs I hadn't anticipated. Lost relationships, compromised ethics, made choices that kept me awake at night. The question wasn't whether I'd succeeded. It was whether the person I'd become in the process was someone I could respect. I thought about Amanda Walsh, about Marcus being transferred, about Scarlett's wrecked career, about the prices other people had paid for my ambition. Then I thought about the improved profit margins, the streamlined processes, the team that now trusted my leadership. No clean answers. Just trade-offs and consequences. I pulled up my task list for the week. 17 items, 3 urgent. Time to get to work. June brought my father back to the office, part-time at first. He looked older, moved slower, but his mind was as sharp as ever. His first meeting back was with me. "Tell me honestly," he said. "How's Malcolm doing?" "He's steady. Conservative. He hasn't made any bold moves, but he also hasn't made any major mistakes. The company's stable." Is stable good enough? I knew what he was really asking. "You want to know if you should resume as CEO or make Malcolm permanent?" I want to know what the company needs, not what my ego wants. I thought carefully before answering. The company needs you to stay involved, but maybe not as CEO. Malcolm's doing well because he has clear operational authority without the strategic pressure. If you came back full-time, you'd either second-guess him constantly or micromanage until he quit. Harsh assessment. True assessment. He smiled slightly. "When did you get so blunt?" "Around month 3, when I realized corporate politeness was just slow-motion dishonesty." Fair enough. So what do you recommend? Malcolm as CEO. You, as executive chairman, focused on strategy and board relations. Let him run operations while you set direction. Play to both your strengths. He considered this. And you? What about me? Director of Project Operations at 24. The board wants to put you on the executive leadership track. Patricia's pushing for you to become VP of Engineering within 2 years. He paused. Is that what you want? Do you think I'm ready? I think you've demonstrated more capability in 15 months than most people show in 5 years. But ready isn't the question. The question is whether you want that life. Endless politics, impossible decisions, being responsible for hundreds of people's livelihoods. It's exhausting. It's lonely. It never stops. I thought about the last 15 months. The wins and losses, the compromises and consequences. I don't know if I want it, I admitted. But I know I'm not done trying to find out. He nodded. Then keep going. But Violet, promise me you'll know when to stop. When the cost exceeds the value. Your mother and I, we almost lost ourselves in this company. Don't make the same mistake. I promise. That weekend, I met Marcus for coffee. He'd been promoted to Quality Assurance Manager, finally doing work he found meaningful. So, Director Parker, he said, how's the view from the top? The same, except now I have more meetings about the view. He laughed. That's accurate. You hear about Scarlett? What about her? She's killing it at her new company. Got promoted to principal engineer after 3 months. Apparently, she's back to her technical roots and thriving. Good for her. Good for her. Good for you. You both got what you needed. He sipped his coffee. Speaking of which, I have news. I'm leaving. My stomach dropped. Leaving? Got an offer from a startup. VP of Product Quality. It's risky, but it's my chance to build something from scratch instead of documenting other people's work. He met my eyes. I'm grateful for everything Crawford taught me. But it's time. I'll miss having you here. You don't need me anymore. You've got your own team, your own authority. You'll be fine. Will I? Yeah, you will. Because you're not the same person who started here 15 months ago. You've learned how to lead, how to fail, how to keep going. That's rare, Parker. Don't waste it. August brought the annual board retreat. This year, Malcolm asked me to present the engineering division's 5-year strategic plan. I spent 3 weeks preparing. Not just slides, a comprehensive vision for how engineering could evolve from a cost center to a competitive advantage. The day of the presentation, I arrived early. Set up my materials. Practiced my opening twice. My father found me in the conference room at 7:30 a.m. Nervous? He asked. Terrified. Good. That means you care. He sat next to me. I've seen your presentation. It's excellent. How did you? Malcolm shared it. Wanted my feedback. He smiled. I had none to give. You've thought through every angle. What if they don't buy it? Then you listen to their objections, adapt, and try again. That's how this works. No one gets unanimous approval on first try. The board started filing in. 8 directors: Malcolm, Patricia, my mother, my father. David Harrison called the meeting to order. Violet, you're up. I pulled up the presentation. Took a breath. 15 months ago, I started at Crawford Enterprises as an intern who couldn't read electrical schematics. Today, I'm asking you to trust me with the future of our engineering division. I walked them through the vision-integrated project delivery, advanced risk modeling, strategic client partnerships. Not just executing projects, but shaping how the industry approached infrastructure development. This requires investment, I acknowledged. $3 million over 5 years. New technology, new talent, new processes. It's not safe. But neither is standing still while competitors innovate around us. Questions came fast: ROI projections, implementation timeline, talent acquisition strategy, competitive analysis. I answered each one. Sometimes with data I'd prepared. Sometimes with honest admissions, I don't know. But here's how we'd find out. After 90 minutes, David called for a vote. All in favor of allocating resources to pursue this strategic direction? 8 hands rose. Unanimous approval. Congratulations, Violet, David said. You've just been given $3 million and the future of our engineering division. Don't screw it up. I'll try not to. After the meeting, my mother found me in the hallway. That was impressive. I had help. Malcolm's feedback, Patricia's financial projections, Dad's strategic framing. But the vision was yours. Don't minimize that. She hugged me. Your father and I are proud of you. Not because you're successful, but because you're becoming someone we genuinely admire. That might be the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Don't get used to it. I have a reputation to maintain. That night, I sat in my apartment going through emails. One caught my attention, from Amanda Walsh. Subject: Thank you, Violet. I got your voicemail 6 months ago. I wasn't ready to respond then. I'm not sure I'm ready now. But I wanted you to know I heard it. And I appreciate you taking responsibility for your part in what happened. Christopher and I are divorced. He married that girl from Austin. I'm rebuilding my life with my kids. It's hard, but it's honest. I don't forgive you, not yet, maybe not ever. But I understand you were trying to do something decent in a complicated situation. Sometimes decent actions have bad outcomes. That's not entirely your fault. I hope you're doing well. I hope you learned something from all this. I know I did. Amanda, I read the email 3 times. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement. A recognition that we'd both been caught in something bigger than either of us understood at the time. I wrote back, Amanda, thank you for this. You didn't owe me anything, least of all grace. I'm glad you're rebuilding. Your kids are lucky to have you. I did learn from this. I learned that good intentions don't absolve consequences. That doing the right thing sometimes means accepting you can't control the outcome. That complexity is uncomfortable, but necessary. I wish you all the best. Violet September marked 16 months since I'd started at Crawford Enterprises. 16 months since I'd walked in as an intern trying to prove I was more than my last name. I'd succeeded, proven my competence, earned promotions, led teams. But I'd also failed, hurt people, made mistakes, learned that winning sometimes meant losing things you didn't know were valuable. The question I'd started with, can I succeed on merit, had been answered. The question I hadn't thought to ask, what does success cost, and is it worth paying? It was still unfolding. I stood in my office, director of project operations, looking at the org chart on my wall. 12 direct reports. 53 people in the engineering division. $3 million in strategic investment riding on my vision. Responsibility I'd earned. And responsibility I'd have to live with. My phone buzzed a text from Marcus. Heard about the board approval. Congrats. Remember what I told you 15 months ago, watch yourself around the politics. You're in deep now. Don't lose yourself in it. Good advice. I pulled up my calendar for tomorrow, 7 meetings, 2 client calls, 1 budget review. The machinery of leadership grinding forward. I thought about my father's warning, promise me you'll know when to stop. When the cost exceeds the value. I wasn't there yet. Wasn't sure I'd recognize it when I arrived. But I was paying attention. Learning to count the costs alongside the wins. That would have to be enough. I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and went home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new choices, new consequences. Tonight, I'd earn the right to rest. The end.